other side of Amendment 8, the person who wins the prize for coming the farthest tonight, from Tallahassee, Mr. Ron Meyer. He is the founding partner of Meyer, Brooks, Dema, and Bloom, attorney firm in Tallahassee, and he appears here tonight on behalf of the Florida Education Association. Mr. Meyer.
Thank you, and I want to really sincerely congratulate all of you in this room for coming out tonight and getting educated on these amendments, because as you've already heard, these are not always the most clear wording and intentioned amendments, and it's important at least to hear differing views of these. You know, as I was listening to your superintendent, who frankly has a horrendous job, and my hat is off to her and the members of your local school board for trying to make do with the hand that they've been dealt by the Florida legislature in Tallahassee, telling them to sort of do Herculean tasks, but taking away the resources that are necessary to do it. I'm here unabashedly to ask you to vote no on Amendment 8. To vote no on Amendment 8 for your children, for your grandchildren, if you're a taxpayer, and I suspect most of you are, for your pocketbook. Because a vote no for Amendment 8 will help you to not only help your children and grandchildren, but will also help you to save local property taxes from increasing. First of all, let me tell you a little bit about the organization that I represent. Florida Education Association, often vilified as the union, is a collection of 140,000 teachers spread throughout the state of Florida who toil in public schools every day. They, statewide, through their representative assembly, have overwhelmingly voted to oppose Amendment number 8. For the Florida PTA, you heard the superintendent discuss a call from the PTA president. A bedrock organization in Florida education circles, 350,000 parents spread throughout the state, very apolitical, don't generally take positions on issues, very steadfastly in opposition to Amendment 8. Why? Because they know, as you know, that it's better to have a smaller class so that your children, your grandchildren, can get the education that they deserve and get the attention of the classroom teacher. Let's talk about what Amendment 8 does. Make no mistake, we started out in 2002, 2003 with students in pre-K averaging 23 students, the classes. Now, according to the Department of Education, the average pre-K through 3 classroom is 16 students. But if Amendment 8 passes, that can swell up to 21 students. You move to the next level of school, which I can't because my clicker isn't clicking. Well, can I have a little help there, Lee? There we go. Grades 4 through 8. We started out in 2002 averaging 24 students. Now the DOE says we average 19 students. If Amendment 8 passes, we can swell that up to 27 students, and in high school it's no better. We actually moved way backward. We started at 24 student average, now we got it down to 22 students, but if the amendment passes, we can take a 25% increase up to 30 students in these classrooms. Make no mistake, passing Amendment 8 is going to recrowd classrooms. Now let's talk about flexibility. That's what we keep hearing. We heard your superintendent say, we're handcuffed, we need flexibility. Well, the fact is, there is flexibility. You don't need to amend the Florida Constitution to provide flexibility for public schools. A statutory provision could very well be enacted if the legislature wanted to allow common sense to be utilized in implementing class size considerations in the event of unexpected enrollment growth. Here's what the Supreme Court said in 2002. Don't take my word for it. The Supreme Court, in considering the ballot amendment, said that the legislature is given latitude in designing ways to achieve the class size numeric goals that are articulated in Article 9 of the Constitution. Latitude, that's another word for flexibility. The Constitution, says the Supreme Court, gives the legislature the latitude to provide all the flexibility that might be needed. Here's another surprise for you. There is not hard cap expressed in the Constitution. Here's what the Constitution says about class size. It says to assure that children attending public schools obtain a high-quality education, the legislature shall make adequate provision to ensure that by the beginning of this school year, there would be a sufficient number of classrooms so that these goals of class size could be achieved. But the legislature chose not to do that. The legislature chose instead to penalize school districts that don't meet numeric goals, saying they're hard capped, and the Constitution does not make them hard caps. The legislature withheld the funding that everyone agreed was necessary to implement final stage class size this year, said that we're not going to pay your local school district the class size categorical funding that the Department of Education said was required, and instead put them in the awful position that your superintendent finds herself in of drowning. And when you're drowning, you'll reach out for any life raft, even a leaky one. And that's what the school districts of Florida are having to do. The legislature hasn't provided the money, and now seeks to impose penalties for the school board's inability to meet class size goals. The Constitution only prescribes a funding requirement. There are no hard caps in the Constitution. Read it yourself. The Supreme Court describes those ratios as nothing more than class size goals. Goals, something we seek to achieve, but that's not a hard cap. So there is plenty of room for flexibility. Let's also talk about what this amendment, if passed, does. You heard the superintendent say it's going to save anywhere from $3.2 billion to $4 billion a year. Well, first of all, those are scare numbers. That's the amount of money that the legislature is paying every year to maintain its operation. What the State Board of Education said this year to implement the final stage of class size would require is an appropriation of $350 million. Well, make no mistake, that's a lot of money. But it costs a lot of money to operate our schools. And $350